question is inscribed angles and how do we use them. Now we had a little bit on our assignment, but we're going to go ahead and look at this. So we've got the relationship, and we're going to write it down in math words. So we've got the measure of arc AC, which is what that means, which would be 120 degrees, etc. We know is equal to the measure of angle D. Let's do that better. ADC, or the central angle. That's something we know. We also know that half of the measure of arc AC is equal to the measure of angle B, and half of the measure of the angle ADC is equal to the measure of angle B. So that is what we know about inscribed angles and what the lesson 7.3 is supposed to tell us. And so now that we know that, we can use it. And how do we use it? So that's the question. How do we apply this? So what we're going to do is grab this, bring it over here. Let's see what we do. So first we get rid of that. So we apply this in several different ways. One, if I know, let's say I know the measure of arc AC equals 123. Let's go with 124. Then the measure of angle B equals 62 degrees. And we're done. So we can use it to find those things. We could, if we are given this piece of information and that piece of information, then we can find this piece of information, which will lead to that piece of information, all that kind of stuff, which was all over your homework. So hopefully you've kind of played with it a little bit. That's the idea. So here's the next thing that happens. We have angles that are outside the circle. This angle Y is formed by the two tangent lines, YX and YZ. And and so we've got that versus, and then we've got this arc XWZ, and what we're actually trying to figure out is how those are related. This angle is off the circle, and this one's a little bit funky, but the major arc, which is an arc bigger than 180, minus the minor arc, smaller than 180, it has a relationship. So the measure of arc XWZ, which means start at X, go to W, go to Z, minus the measure of arc Z, X, XZ, is, if you take half of that, you get the measure of angle Y. So this is a little different than our other one. Since it's outside the circle, we subtract big arc minus smaller arc to find angle. So, you know, that's what we're dealing with. It's no big deal. How do we apply that? It gets a little bit more complicated. So we apply that. We, let's say I know that the measure, of, just a minute, Dad. Measure of arc XZ is 140, 120, and we'll come back. So often with these questions that only give you one of the arcs and you're thinking, that's not enough information, and ask for the measure of angle Y. But it's totally enough information. These two arcs make a circle. And so that means the measure of XWZ is equal to 240, because that's 120 minus 180. And so then you subtract again the large minus the small and divide it in half. And that will give me a total of 60 degrees based on what I made up. So that's the idea of how to apply it. Angles formed by a tangent line and a secant line applies in the exact same fashion as the two tangent lines. It's still large arc minus small arc is half the angle. So in this situation, the measure of arc MRQ minus the measure of arc MQ divided in half is equal to the measure of angle P. And we apply it the same way, although on this they do tend to give us both angles. And that's how those work. We're going to skip the how do we apply this. Angles formed by two secant lines, again, works exactly the same. Notice that these three that we've been talking about, the angle is outside the circle. Those are all the same. Big arc minus small, far arc minus close arc, big arc minus small arc, whatever you want to do. Subtract them and divide by 2. And so that's what we're dealing with. And so good luck with the work. There's a homework assignment that goes with this, and have a great weekend.